welcome back. It's time for us to get into a conversation about the International Defense Exhibition and Conference that's about happening. And we've been joined on the set this morning by Naval Captain Michael Adolabi. And he's the Director of Public Relations with the Ghana Armed Forces.
Good morning.
Naval Captain,
Naval
you're
Captain.
welcome.
Thank you very much.
Yes,
Thanks for this opportunity.
When I see uniform,
no, we were very excited. We're very excited to have you.
It is a pleasure. And we're also excited that we are partnering each other and also working for Ghana.
Wonderful,
Thank you so much.
wonderful. Yeah, so talk to us about why we're having this exhibition and all of that. What's the idea? What's the plan?
Well, we have existing threats and emerging threats. And for instance, issues in respect of terrorism and national organized crime, those ones transcend borders. So it requires a lot of international partnerships and collaboration to be able to deal with them. And Ghana being where we are at a particular time, and judging from what is happening in the Sahel and the downward trend of terrorism close to our borders, it is important that we take the lead in terms of to deal with them. So this international conference, the defense exhibition, is supposed to bring together delegates, especially chiefs of defense staffs, chiefs of army, chiefs of navy, chiefs of air forces across Africa and beyond, so that we all sit down to strategize and come up with measures to be able to deal with these threats.
Okay. Is this the first time that the conference is happening?
For this magnitude, this is the first one in terms of international defense exhibition. But previously, we've had Coastal and Maritime Surveillance Africa Conference that was hosted by the Ghana Navy. Subsequently, we had the International Maritime and Defense Exhibition, again by the Navy, and subsequently with the Air Force. But the Army has also had what we call the Armored Vehicles and Future Fires Conference again. But for having all the three services, the Army, Navy, and Air Force coming together as the Ghana Armed Forces to host such a conference, this is the first of its kind.
But why is it happening in Ghana? And why has the Ghana Armed Forces decided to host it here as well?
Well, we've taken the lead in so many areas and international affairs. When you look at our performance in peacekeeping, and also even when it comes to international conference and even at the national level, Ghana has been able to achieve a lot.
When we travel, people speak very highly about armed forces. So.
And also starting with the Coastal Maritime Surveillance Africa Conference in 2014, going through the IMDEC and the Future Fires, we've already have the pedigree in terms of able to collaborate and get all these partners on board at a sitting to be organizing such conferences. So I think we play a lead role in that particular aspect.
Okay. So when, where, how can people participate and all that?
Well, the conference will be held in Bema Camp at the Bema Hall from the 11th to the 12th. That is a 2-day event. And
so that's next week, Tuesday?
Yes, next week, Tuesday. Yes, so we have a lot of chiefs of army from other countries, from the ECOWAS, African region, and other parts of the world coming in. There are going to be a lot of experts who will be speaking on different subjects. And apart from the subjects that they will be discussing, so we have panel discussions, and industry sessions where we look at technology and innovative ways to apply in terms of the measures we want to put across. So we will have a lot of exhibitors also in and sponsors also coming in on board. So a lot of persons, VIPs have been invited and who will be participating.
Okay, so what's the broad theme for the exhibition this year?
It is strengthening international collaboration.
Strengthening international collaboration.
In combating terrorism and transnational organized crime.
So looking at the efforts globally and how we can, especially within Africa, the African continent, make sure that we are combating terrorism.
Yes, please.
Okay.
I'm just curious, from where you sit and with all the intelligence and gathering and security background and all of that. We see what's happening in Mali, Chad, Niger. We see what's happening in Burkina Faso, and then we're just talking about ISIS, the different terrorist groups that are moving around, Boko Haram, of course, Nigeria issues and all of that. How real is the threat?
The threat is real. I think when you monitor the media and some of the locations where these incidents are reported, they are very, very close. That is why for the armed forces, for instance, we have an Operation Conquered Fists, fully deployed on the northern part of the country because the threats are real. And once in a while, we get certain leads and we follow up with our international partners across the borders. So the threats are very real and we need to deal with them. And it is based on this that you might have heard of the Accra Initiative, which brought about these 5 countries, that is Benin, Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, and Togo. Now we have Mali and Niger on board in order to spearhead.
So now there are 7.
Yes, so in order to spearhead dealing with these threats that are already in existence.
Okay, so you mentioned that there'll be panel discussions, you know, and what are some of the breakaway topics? So we have the broad theme, but what are some of the specific topics that we'll be addressing during the exhibition?
So for the first day, for instance, we're going to have some experts and also guest speakers speaking specifically on terrorism, the state of terrorism in Africa. Then based on that, we have the panel discussion where a lot of experts come together to brainstorm on it, then we come up with a strategy. Then after that, then you have the industry session where now we talk about the use of technology and innovative means to deal with those strategies that you are coming up with and how it can be applicable on the ground. So then you can move to the next subject of the day. That was the day 1. The next one will be on the transnational organized crime. On the second day, the highlights will be the CDS addressing how Ghana is dealing with the terrorism threat, the Chief of Defense Staff of Ghana. Then we have our US partners also coming in to discuss how they are supporting in terms of the global efforts in dealing with terrorism. Then again, we go to the panel discussions and industry sessions where we talk of innovations and the strategies. Subsequently, or the final day, we would have the various service chiefs, that is Army, Navy, Air Force, meeting their groupings alone. Chiefs of Army hosting themselves, the Chief of Army of Ghana hosting the other chiefs of Army, to come out from an Army point of view, what they want to strategize. Then the 3 services, then we put all together.
It's not just exhibition, there are strategies that will go and implement as well.
Yes, that is so. The exhibition mainly is by the military solution providers who come up with certain equipment and innovatives and technology. How, if you're coming up with a strategy, some of the equipment or some of the innovations that can be applied to enable you to be successful. So those are the things that will be exhibited.
Now, I mean, Ghana Armed Forces, by all stretch of imaginations, has been very, I mean, brilliant, not just locally, but also internationally, you know, and like Apioko said, very much lauded across borders for your feats, really. How do you feel about your involvement in the Galamsey fight, where we are? Is there success around the corner?
There is a lot of success being achieved, and I think that is not what comes out most of the time, because in terms of the operations that we conduct, ideally it shouldn't be something that on everyday basis we would come up with a certain situation report to blow out to Ghana, but there's a lot of success being achieved. There's more to be done, but the collaborative effort is what is needed at this material time. But in terms of the armed forces rules and the number of seizures of excavators that we do, some that have been immobilized or destroyed, and the number of equipment in terms of structures and even these farm machines that we destroyed are massive. It is not something that you would even believe that is what is going on. So it is something that there's been a lot of success achieved at the point, but you still need to do more.
Fantastic.
Okay. Well, yes, and I mean, just to piggyback on that, so now we've spoken about Galamsey, that's internal, you know, but in the West African sub-region, I mean, you already hinted on ISIS and Boko Haram, and, you know, I don't think a lot of people realize that terrorism is a real threat. You know, so if you can just give people a few things to look out for, you know, so that citizens can also be involved to support the efforts of the Ghana Armed Forces and indeed the armed forces of all the other nations that surround us.
Well, I think recently the National Security launched this See Something, Say Something campaign, and they gave some guidelines from the National Security in terms of how to figure out suspicious activities and the appropriate locations to report them. Most of the time, some of our people would want to go to a radio station to report of an activity instead of you have a security post very close by. So you will have maybe an accommodation that you've rented out. You've seen some people engage in suspicious activities. You don't wait for it to be told. You can just prompt somebody that, please, can you look out for this one? And then on a daily basis, you watch people's movements, certain things that you realize that is out of the norm. Even if you are driving, you see someone tailgating you for a long time or anything of that nature. You see a structure somewhere, you don't know what is being done. It appears to be a factory, but you don't see anything being produced out of it. You can just do a little few checks to see what the accommodation or that facility is being used for, who comes in and who goes out. You should be able to monitor your surroundings and know a few things. Then you yourself, sometimes your routine, you vary it a little bit so that you would also notice.
So instead of passing through Circle to go home, now you should go and pass through maybe
once in a while, you might just decide to change the route a little bit. And also to monitor whatever you see along the way. This is not what I normally see on this particular route. There could be something wrong, or not to raise a false alarm per se, but just to be very, very observant. And also,
I think that's something that Ghanaians don't do very well, because sometimes somebody just passed and you say, oh, the person who passed, what were they wearing? You know, nobody remembers, because we're not even, you know, naturally trained to think and look at, you know, the details. Meanwhile, when you go to certain places, when there's a crime scene, somebody who can come and give you a whole lot of details,
the color of the top,
you know, so that the artist will just sit there and draw. By the time you realize, they've already figured out who the person is. You know?
So you might be in this structure, and every day somebody, a shoemaker, passes by. One day you see that he's not the same person. Something should tell you, where's the other guy who passes here most of the time in the morning?
So something that seems as little as that.
So immediately you see the thing that looks out of the mall, you just take a closer look. Your memory will pick the coloring and everything a little bit, so that immediately something triggers, you're able to recall quickly what you saw.
Wonderful.
All right.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for this opportunity.
This morning. If I was going to study either security or intelligence as a layperson, which one should I go with?
Security first.
Security first.
All right, we're going to do it.
Security
All right,
first.
thank you. Naval Captain Michael Adolavi has joined us on the set this morning. We had a very interesting conversation. We're going to take a look at our Citi countdown, but before we do that, let's take a look at this video from the event.